everyone, welcome back. Hope that you've had a good rest and are ready to jump back into programming. What we're going to be exploring over the next few videos are some of the tools that the standard template library offers us. Now, C++ provides us with this standard template library, and what the STL does is it gives us a large collection of programming work that's already been done, it's been done well, and it's been refined over the years. What this means is that we don't have to redo work that's already been done. The STL gives us a group of different containers, algorithms, iterators, and a lot more. Now, what we've worked with so far, we've worked with sequences of values using arrays. The STL gives us some more complicated, some more sophisticated ways to work with these collections of values. So we're going to start off by learning about the vector object, which is one type of container defined by the STL. A vector basically is a dynamic array, and what this means is that it can grow and shrink in size as needed. So you don't have to worry about array bounds. The vector object also defines a number of member functions that will help you manipulate the elements in your vector, so it's got all the functionality of an array plus more. A couple advantages to working with vectors. First of all, the vector can grow as you need it to. Arrays can't. This means that if you use a vector to store items in an inventory, that vector will grow as you store more things in it. Whereas with an array, you have to create an array that stores some arbitrary maximum number of items. And in the course of your program, if you realize that you need more room in the array than you first thought, you're out of luck until you redefine that array and then recompile the program. Now, the second advantage is that vectors can be used with the STL algorithms that we'll learn about later on in another video. Arrays cannot be used with these algorithms. This gives us, if we use vectors, built-in complex functionality like searching and sorting that we just don't have with arrays. If we wanted to do the same sort of thing with arrays, we would have to write the programming ourselves. Now, there are some trade-offs. The disadvantages are, first of all, vectors do require a little bit more memory as overhead. You also, as the vector grows in size, you might see a performance hit. And third, if you're programming for certain game console systems, vectors might not be available on those game console systems. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into using vectors. We're going to revamp our heroes inventory system, and we're going to revamp it to use vectors instead of the array that we used before. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we're going to call this Heroes Inventory 2.0. And we say that it's demonstrating vectors. Now, just like before, I include IOStream and string, but I'll need to include one more file, and this is the file that contains the definition of the vector object. And that file is, strangely enough, called vector. Okay, now we'll go ahead and save our file. I'll get to my week 6 folder, and I will call this heroesinventory.cpp. Okay, now I give a directive that I'm using the std namespace, and then I'll go ahead and open up my main function. Now, the first thing I'm going to do in my main function is declare a new vector called inventory, like so. Now, you notice I put string in brackets, so this vector will contain string objects. I could also use my vector to store ints, floats, cars, or any other type of object. The next thing I do is go ahead and give my hero his starting inventory. This push back member function adds a new element to the end of the vector and increases the size of the vector. So we're adding sword, armor, and shield to our inventory vector. Next, we'll display the number of items that our hero has in his inventory, and we'll use the size member function to display that. This returns the number of items in a vector, which should show up as 3 when we run our program. Now we'll use a for loop and display all of the hero's items. Now, as I write this, you might notice that the function is nearly identical to our original hero's inventory program. The only difference here is twofold. One, we use inventory.size to determine when the loop should end. And we also make our loop variable I an unsigned int because the value returned by size will always be an unsigned int. Other than that, our loop is pretty much the same as it was in the first version of Heroes Inventory. Next up, we replace the hero's first item with a battle axe, pretty much exactly the same way we did in the original program. We have our output, you trade your sword for a battle axe, and now we'll say inventory item 0 is equal to battle axe. Now we'll go ahead and display the inventory again, using the same for loop that we used previously. Okay, now we're going to display the number of letters in the name of the first item. Okay, and we'll do that by writing the element followed by the member selection operator. That number in square brackets is called a member selection operator. After that, we'll use the member function named size to display the number of letters in that particular element. Should return as 10 if I remember right. Okay, next we're going to say that our hero's shield is destroyed in battle, and so we'll need to remove that item from his inventory. We'll do that using a new member function called pop back, pop_back. The pop back member function removes the last element of a vector and reduces the vector size by 1. Now we'll go ahead and display the inventory again. And rather than typing my loop a third time, I'm just going to copy it and paste it where I need it to go. Okay, now we're going to simulate the hero losing everything to a thief. And we'll do that using the function clear. The clear function removes all of the items of a vector and then sets its size to 0. And this will make our inventory vector an empty vector. So we have inventory.clear, open parentheses, close parentheses, And now we'll have an if statement. We'll check to see if the hero has any items in his inventory using the empty function. Now, just like the string object's empty function, this member function returns true if the vector object is empty, otherwise it returns false. This time what we should see is it'll return true and we'll see the message you have nothing. But we'll add an else statement at the end here, just in case it returns false, and then the program will say you have at least one item. Okay, now we'll wrap things up by returning 0 and closing our main function. Now let's go ahead and compile it and run it. Okay, so as you can see, we first say the inventory size, 3 items. Then we list those items, and they appear in the order that we used pushback to insert them. Now we trade the sword for a battle axe, and display the inventory, and sword is gone, battle axe is there instead. After that, we use the inventory size function to display the number of letters in the first element in our vector. We remove the last item from the vector, and then we clear the vector, and that's the end of the program. Okay. If you have any problems with that, feel free to let me know, either through email, office hours, or on the help desk forum. And in our next video, we'll learn about iterators, which gives us a more complicated, a more complex and sophisticated way of moving through the items in a vector. So stay tuned for that. Have a great day.